This video contains audio content only. There are no visual elements or images accompanying the audio. If you're expecting to see video footage, please note that this is an intentional audio-only presentation. We recommend listening to this content rather than watching the screen. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the audio. Welcome. Ever wondered why a piece of Russia sits nestled between Poland and Lithuania? This article unravels the fascinating story of Kaliningrad, a city steeped in history and brimming with geopolitical significance. From its medieval origins as Königsberg to its transformation into a modern-day Russian exclave, we'll explore the key events and historical forces that shaped its destiny. Join us as we delve into the complex interplay of culture, conflict, and strategy that makes Kaliningrad such a unique and intriguing place. Get ready to uncover the secrets of this Baltic enigma. Chapter 1. From Teutonic Knights to Tsarist Ambitions. The story of Kaliningrad, or as it was known for centuries, Königsberg, begins not with the thunder of cannons or the clash of steel, but with the steady encroachment of faith and iron upon the Baltic coast. The year is 1255. The Northern Crusades, a series of religious and military campaigns, are sweeping across the lands of the pagan Old Prussians. In this context of conquest and conversion, the Teutonic Knights, a formidable German order of warrior monks, arrive. Their mission? To Christianize the region and establish their dominion. On the site of the old Prussian settlement Twangst, a strategic location overlooking the Pregolia River, they build a fortress, a symbol of their power and a bulwark against the infidels. They christen it Königsberg, King's Mountain, in honor of King Ottokar II of Bohemia, who had lent his support to their crusade. This act marks not just the founding of a city, but the genesis of a complex and often turbulent history. Königsberg, from its very inception, becomes a melting pot of cultures and ambitions, a battleground for competing powers. The Teutonic Knights, clad in their white mantles emblazoned with black crosses, become the dominant force, their military prowess and administrative skills shaping the region. They subdue the Old Prussians, imposing their language, religion, and laws upon the native inhabitants. Königsberg, strategically situated at the confluence of river and sea, quickly develops into a major port. Its bustling harbor becomes a vital hub for trade, connecting the Baltic region with the wider European world. The city flourishes, its wealth growing as goods flow in and out, its population swelling with merchants, artisans, and settlers from across the German lands. Recognizing the economic advantages of cooperation, Königsberg joins the Hanseatic League, a powerful alliance of trading cities that dominates the Baltic and North Seas. This membership further strengthens the city's economic position, bringing it into contact with a vast network of commercial partners and fueling its growth. However, the Teutonic Knights' ambitions extend beyond commerce. They clash repeatedly with their powerful neighbors, the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. These conflicts, driven by territorial disputes and religious differences, become a recurring theme in Königsberg's history. For a brief moment, from 1454 to 1455, the city, known then as Królewicz, falls under Polish rule, becoming the capital of a newly established voivodeship. Even after the Teutonic Order regains control, Königsberg remains a Polish fief, a testament to the enduring influence of its western neighbor. The 16th century brings about a profound transformation. The Protestant Reformation sweeps across Europe, challenging the authority of the Catholic Church. Albrecht of Brandenburg-Ansbach, the last Grand Master of the Teutonic Order, embraces Lutheranism and secularizes the order's state. In 1525, the Duchy of Prussia is born, with Königsberg as its capital. This newly formed duchy, though initially a vassal state of Poland, marks a significant shift in the region's political landscape. The Black Prussian Eagle, now adorned with a crown bearing the letter S, in honor of the Polish king Sigismund I the Old, becomes a symbol of this complex relationship. The Hohenzollern dynasty, already ruling Brandenburg, a powerful German electorate centered around Berlin, acquires control of the Duchy of Prussia through inheritance. This union, initially a personal one, lays the foundation for the future Kingdom of Prussia. Königsberg becomes a key city within the growing Hohenzollern domains, its strategic importance and economic vitality making it a prized possession. The 17th-century stock exchange, with its famous painting depicting a townswoman trading with figures representing Poland and the Netherlands, embodies the city's role as a crossroads of commerce and cultures. In 1701, Elector Frederick III of Brandenburg crowns himself King Frederick I in Prussia, a momentous event that elevates Königsberg to the status of coronation city. The city witnesses the pomp and circumstance of royal ceremonies, its streets filled with dignitaries and its coffers enriched by the influx of visitors. However, the seeds of change are already sown. Berlin, the heart of Brandenburg and the growing center of Hohenzollern power, eventually eclipses Königsberg. In a move that reflects the shifting balance of power, the capital of the Kingdom of Prussia is moved to Berlin. Despite losing its status as the capital, Königsberg continues to thrive. It remains a major center of administration and trade, its port bustling with activity and its cultural life flourishing. The University of Königsberg, founded in 1544, becomes a renowned center of learning, attracting scholars and students from across Europe. It is here that Immanuel Kant, one of the most influential philosophers in history, is born, lives, and teaches. His presence, along with other notable figures like E.T.A. Hoffmann, cements Königsberg's reputation as a city of intellectual ferment. Königsberg is not immune to the upheavals that reshape Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries. During the 7 Years' War, the city is occupied by the Russian Empire, a foreshadowing of the dramatic events that will unfold a century and a half later. Immanuel Kant, a loyal subject of the Prussian king, is compelled to swear allegiance to Empress Elizabeth of Russia. This act, though born of necessity, highlights the precarious position of Königsberg, caught between competing empires. The partitions of Poland, which erase Poland from the map for over a century, further alter the geopolitical landscape, solidifying Prussia's dominance in the region and increasing its border with Russia. Königsberg continues to grow and develop, its population becoming increasingly diverse. While Germans remain the dominant group, the city is home to significant Polish, Lithuanian, and Latvian communities. Its economy diversifies, with shipbuilding, amber processing, and other industries emerging alongside traditional trade. The construction of a new central railway station and modern harbor facilities further enhances the city's economic importance. However, the shadow of Russian ambition looms large. Tsarist Russia, its power and influence growing, views Königsberg as a strategic prize, a gateway to the Baltic and a potential buffer against its European rivals. This growing interest, combined with the complex ethnic makeup of the region and the legacy of past conflicts, sets the stage for the tumultuous events of the 20th century, a century that will see Königsberg transformed into Kaliningrad, a Russian exclave at the heart of a new geopolitical struggle. Chapter 2. A Prize of War: Stalin's Motives and the Annexation of Königsberg. The outbreak of World War II cast a long, dark shadow over Königsberg. By 1944, the city, once a vibrant hub of Prussian culture and commerce, found itself transformed into a strategic target, the easternmost major city within the shrinking borders of the Third Reich. The year brought with it the terrifying drone of Allied bombers, their payloads of explosives reducing swaths of the city to rubble. The iconic landmarks of Königsberg, testaments to centuries of history, were not spared. The magnificent Königsberg Castle, once the seat of Teutonic knights and Prussian kings, suffered significant damage, its once proud towers scarred and broken. The Altstadt, the historic heart of the city, was ravaged, its narrow streets choked with debris and its ornate buildings reduced to hollow shells. The physical destruction was only one facet of the city's suffering. Königsberg's Polish and Jewish communities, already marginalized and discriminated against under Nazi rule, faced intensified persecution. Mass arrests and deportations to concentration camps became a grim reality, tearing families apart and leaving a void in the city's social fabric. Those who remained were subjected to forced labor, toiling in factories and workshops to support the German war effort. Amidst this oppression, the Polish resistance movement, a beacon of defiance, operated in the shadows. Königsberg became a vital link in their network, a clandestine hub for the distribution of underground press, keeping the flame of hope alive amidst the darkness. Information and news, smuggled in and disseminated through the city, offered a lifeline to those resisting Nazi tyranny, providing vital updates on the war's progress and bolstering morale. As 1945 dawned, the Red Army's inexorable advance brought the war to Königsberg's doorstep. The city, already battered by Allied bombing, now braced itself for a ground assault, a battle that would determine its fate. In January 1945, the East Prussian offensive began, a massive Soviet operation aimed at capturing East Prussia and eliminating German resistance in the region. Königsberg, a heavily fortified city, became a key objective. The scale of the Soviet assault was staggering. Over 1.5 million Soviet troops, commanded by Marshal Konstantin Rokossovsky, were deployed for the offensive, vastly outnumbering the defending German forces. The Battle of Königsberg, which raged from April 6 to 9, 1945, was a brutal and bloody affair. The city, transformed into a fortress, was subjected to a relentless barrage of artillery fire, reducing much of what remained of its infrastructure to ruins. Street fighting, often hand-to-hand, was fierce and unforgiving. The civilian population, trapped in the crossfire, endured unimaginable hardship, sheltering in cellars and basements as the battle raged above. The official Soviet figures put their losses at 3,700 dead and 13,000 wounded, but the true number was likely far higher. German casualties were estimated to be around 42,000 dead and 40,000 captured, a testament to the ferocity of the fighting. The battle left Königsberg in ruins. Over 90% of the city was destroyed, its once grand buildings reduced to rubble, its streets scarred by craters and littered with debris. The few remaining civilians emerged from their shelters to find a city transformed, a desolate landscape bearing little resemblance to the vibrant metropolis it once was. The capture of Königsberg was a significant victory for the Soviet Union, not only militarily but also symbolically. It marked the end of German dominance in East Prussia and opened the door for Soviet annexation of the region. For Stalin, Königsberg was more than just a conquered city. It was a strategic prize, a key piece in his post-war vision for the Soviet Union. The city's ice-free port on the Baltic Sea was a crucial asset, providing access to vital sea lanes and enhancing Soviet naval power. While other Baltic ports like Liepaja and Ventspils in Latvia were also ice-free, Stalin saw Königsberg as a more secure and strategically located port, further west and closer to the heart of Europe. Stalin's justification for annexing Königsberg went beyond the dubious claim of ancient Slavic soil. He emphasized the strategic importance of the city's location, its access to the Baltic Sea, and its proximity to Europe. He argued that the annexation was necessary to ensure Soviet security and to compensate the Soviet Union for the immense losses it had suffered during the war. The city's capture, in Stalin's eyes, was not just a military victory but a historical rectification, a restoration of what he perceived as rightfully Soviet territory. He presented it as a symbol of Soviet strength and resilience, a testament to the nation's ability to overcome adversity and emerge victorious. The fate of Königsberg and East Prussia was a key topic of discussion at the Potsdam Conference, held in the summer of 1945. The Allied powers, the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union, met to determine the post-war order in Europe. The future of Königsberg was a particularly contentious issue. Initially, the Western Allies proposed an Allied occupation of East Prussia, similar to the arrangements in place for Germany. This proposal reflected a desire to maintain a balance of power in the region and to prevent the Soviet Union from gaining undue influence. Stalin, however, vehemently opposed the idea of an Allied occupation. He argued that the Soviet Union had borne the brunt of the fighting against Germany in the East and was therefore entitled to control the territories it had captured. He insisted that Königsberg and the surrounding area be placed under Soviet administration, pending a final determination of territorial borders at a future peace settlement. The Western Allies, despite their reservations, eventually conceded to Stalin's demands. The Potsdam Agreement, signed on August 1, 1945, formally placed Königsberg under Soviet administration. This decision, a reflection of the power dynamics at the end of the war, marked a significant shift in the geopolitical landscape of Europe, setting the stage for Königsberg's transformation into Kaliningrad, a Russian exclave at the heart of a new era of tension and rivalry. The atmosphere in wartime Königsberg was one of fear, uncertainty, and devastation. The constant threat of bombing raids, the scarcity of food and supplies, and the ever-present presence of the Nazi regime created a climate of oppression and anxiety. The city's once bustling streets became eerily quiet, its vibrant cultural life extinguished. The Battle of Königsberg, with its relentless shelling and street fighting, brought unimaginable suffering to the civilian population. The city's capture by the Soviet Union, though marking the end of Nazi rule, also ushered in a new era of uncertainty, as the remaining German population faced an uncertain future and the city itself was transformed into a symbol of Soviet power and ambition. Königsberg, once a jewel of Prussia, had become a pawn in the larger game of post-war geopolitics, its destiny irrevocably altered by the forces of war and ideology. Chapter 3. Erased Heritage. The expulsion of Germans and the creation of Kaliningrad. The guns had fallen silent in Königsberg, but the echoes of war continued to reverberate through the shattered city. The year 1946 brought not peace, but a new form of upheaval, a deliberate and systematic erasure of the city's German identity. The renaming of Königsberg to Kaliningrad, honoring the recently deceased Soviet official Mikhail Kalinin, was more than a symbolic gesture. It was a harbinger of the profound transformation that was about to unfold. The choice of Kalinin himself was fraught with controversy. While officially lauded as a Bolshevik revolutionary and former head of state, his name was also linked to the Katyn Forest massacre, a dark chapter in Soviet history where thousands of Polish prisoners of war were executed. For the remaining German inhabitants, this renaming foreshadowed their own impending erasure. The expulsion of Germans from Königsberg, and indeed from across Eastern Europe, was a brutal and often chaotic process. There was no single method of notification. Some families received official decrees, others heard rumors whispered in the streets, and still others were simply rounded up without warning. The trauma of sudden displacement, the fear of the unknown, and the wrenching separation from their homes became a shared experience, etched into the collective memory of a generation. What little they were allowed to take varied. Some families managed to salvage a few cherished possessions, photographs, family heirlooms, and small reminders of a life they were being forced to leave behind. Others were allowed only the clothes on their backs, their worldly possessions confiscated or destroyed. The journey itself was often a nightmare. Packed into overcrowded trains or herded onto trucks, the expelled Germans faced harsh conditions, with little food, water, or sanitation. The journey, often lasting days or even weeks, was marked by hunger, disease, and the constant fear of violence. Their destinations were as varied as their experiences. Some were sent to Soviet-occupied Germany, others to Siberia or other remote regions of the Soviet Union. The process of resettlement was often as traumatic as the expulsion itself. Many arrived in their new homes destitute and disoriented, struggling to rebuild their lives in unfamiliar and often hostile environments. The emotional and social consequences were devastating. Families were torn apart, communities shattered, and the sense of belonging and identity lost. The expulsion was not a silent exodus. While organized resistance was difficult under the watchful eye of the Soviet authorities, individual acts of defiance and protest were not uncommon. Some Germans refused to leave their homes, clinging to the hope that they would be allowed to stay. Others, though forced to depart, carried with them the memories and traditions of their homeland, preserving their cultural identity in the face of adversity. As the German population dwindled, a new wave of settlers began arriving in Kaliningrad. These Soviet citizens, predominantly ethnic Russians, came from various parts of the Soviet Union, their backgrounds and motivations as diverse as the regions they hailed from. Some were drawn by the promise of new opportunities in a developing region, others were relocated as part of government-directed resettlement programs, and still others were demobilized soldiers seeking a place to start anew. They arrived in a city scarred by war, its buildings bombed out, its infrastructure crippled, and its streets bearing the silent testimony of recent battles. The challenge of rebuilding was immense. These newcomers, many of whom had themselves experienced the hardships of war, were tasked with not only reconstructing the physical city but also creating a new Russian identity in a formerly German space. The remaining Lithuanian inhabitants of Kaliningrad, a small minority amidst the influx of Russians, found themselves in a precarious position. While some were able to integrate into the new social order, others faced discrimination and marginalization. The interactions between the newcomers and the remaining Lithuanians were often complex and fraught with tension, as different cultures and languages clashed in the crucible of a changing city. The physical transformation of Kaliningrad was as dramatic as its demographic shift. German street names, once familiar markers of the city's landscape, were replaced with Russian ones. Lenin Prospekt replaced Königsberger Straße, and Kalinin Square supplanted the former Reichsplatz. Buildings were repurposed to serve the needs of the new Soviet administration. The University of Königsberg, a venerable institution of German learning, became the Kaliningrad State University, its curriculum revised and its focus shifted to align with Soviet ideology. German monuments and memorials, symbols of a past that was now being actively erased, were destroyed or removed. The statue of Frederick I, the first king in Prussia, which once stood proudly in the city center, was torn down, its metal melted down and repurposed. The suppression of German language and culture was systematic and pervasive. German language publications were banned, German language schools closed, and the use of German in public spaces discouraged. The German language, once the dominant language of commerce, education, and daily life, was gradually replaced by Russian. This linguistic shift, a key component of the Soviet effort to create a homogeneous Russian identity in Kaliningrad, had a profound impact on the city's cultural landscape. The once vibrant German cultural scene, with its theaters, libraries, and artistic societies, was effectively silenced. The pre-war German culture, rich in traditions and artistic expression, was driven underground, surviving only in the memories and private practices of those who had once called Königsberg home. The demographic shift was stark and swift. Before the war, Königsberg boasted a population of over 370,000, the vast majority of whom were German. By the end of the war, this number had dwindled to around 72,000, many of whom were elderly, infirm, or otherwise unable to flee. The expulsion of the remaining Germans, carried out between 1946 and 1949, effectively eliminated the German presence in the city. In their place, hundreds of thousands of Soviet settlers arrived, transforming Kaliningrad into a predominantly Russian city. By 1950, the city's population had rebounded to over 188,000, the majority of whom were newcomers from various parts of the Soviet Union. This demographic upheaval fundamentally altered the city's cultural and linguistic landscape, creating a new Russian Kaliningrad from the ruins of a German Königsberg. The transformation of Königsberg into Kaliningrad was not an organic evolution but a deliberate act of cultural engineering. The expulsion of Germans, the influx of Soviet settlers, the renaming of streets and landmarks, the suppression of German language and culture, all were part of a concerted effort to erase the city's German past and forge a new Russian identity. This process, while achieving its demographic and political objectives, came at a profound human cost. The expulsion of Germans left deep scars, both on those who were forced to leave and on the city itself. The creation of Kaliningrad, while marking a new chapter in the city's history, also represented a loss, a silencing of a vibrant culture and the disruption of a centuries-old community. The House of Soviets, a hulking, unfinished concrete structure built atop the ruins of Königsberg Castle, became a stark symbol of this new era, a physical manifestation of the Soviet ambition to reshape the city in its own image, a monument not to history but to its erasure. Chapter 4. Fortress of the Baltic. Kaliningrad's strategic importance in the Cold War and beyond. The remnants of Königsberg, hastily renamed Kaliningrad in 1946, emerged from the ashes of World War II not as a phoenix, but as a bristling fortress. Stalin, recognizing the strategic value of this ice-free Baltic port, transformed the Exclave into a heavily militarized outpost, a crucial component of the Soviet Union's Cold War strategy. Kaliningrad's location, wedged between NATO members Poland and Lithuania, made it both a spear pointed at the heart of Europe and a shield guarding against potential Western incursions. The Baltic Fleet, a key element of Soviet naval power, established its headquarters in Kaliningrad, its presence transforming the city into a vital naval base. The fleet's composition, while fluctuating throughout the Cold War, included a formidable array of warships. Cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and submarines, many equipped with advanced anti-ship missiles and torpedoes, patrolled the Baltic Sea, projecting Soviet power and deterring NATO naval activity. The port of Baltiisk, located on the Vistula Lagoon, became a bustling hub of naval activity, its docks teeming with warships and support vessels. Kaliningrad's militarization extended far beyond its naval forces. The 11th Guards Combined Arms Army, a powerful ground force, was stationed in the Exclave, its presence a constant reminder of Soviet military might. This army, composed of tank divisions, motorized rifle divisions, and artillery units, was equipped with a wide range of heavy weaponry, including tanks, armored personnel carriers, and self-propelled artillery. Its mission was twofold: to defend Kaliningrad against a potential NATO attack and to serve as a forward operating base for offensive operations in the event of a wider European conflict. The Exclave's role as a forward operating base was crucial to the Warsaw Pact's Cold War strategy. In the event of a war with NATO, Kaliningrad was envisioned as a launchpad for offensives into Western Europe, particularly through the strategically vital Suwałki Gap, the narrow strip of land connecting Poland and Lithuania. The 11th Guards Army, supported by the Baltic Fleet, would have been tasked with seizing this gap, cutting off NATO's Baltic members from the rest of the alliance and opening a path for Soviet forces to advance further west. These weapons, including the SS-1 Scud and later the more advanced SS-21 Scarab, placed major European capitals within striking range, underscoring the Exclave's role as a key element in Soviet nuclear deterrence. The presence of these missiles, while never officially confirmed, was a constant source of concern for NATO planners, adding another layer of complexity to the already tense East-West standoff. Kaliningrad also played a critical logistical role during the Cold War, serving as a vital transit point for troops and supplies. Rail lines and roads connected the Exclave to the Soviet mainland via the Lithuanian SSR and the Byelorussian SSR, now Belarus. These routes facilitated the movement of troops, tanks, armored vehicles, ammunition, fuel, and other essential supplies, ensuring the Kaliningrad garrison was well stocked and prepared for any contingency. The Baltic Fleet, with its surface-to-air missiles and anti-ship capabilities, could deny NATO access to the Baltic Sea. The 11th Guards Army, along with coastal defense systems, posed a significant threat to any NATO ground incursion. The deployment of nuclear-capable missiles further reinforced Kaliningrad's capabilities, deterring NATO from even considering direct military action against the Exclave. Throughout the Cold War, Kaliningrad's military presence served as a potent deterrent to NATO activities in the Baltic region. The Exclave's formidable defenses and its potential to disrupt NATO operations in the event of a conflict made it a risky target for any Western military action. The Baltic Fleet's regular exercises and patrols, often involving simulated attacks on NATO targets, served as a constant reminder of Soviet military power and its resolve to defend its interests in the region. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 brought significant changes to Kaliningrad. The Exclave, now separated from Russia by newly independent Lithuania, faced new challenges. Access to the mainland became more complex, requiring transit agreements with Lithuania. The Baltic Fleet, once a symbol of Soviet naval might, struggled with reduced funding, maintenance issues, and an aging fleet. The once closed military zone gradually opened up, revealing the economic hardship and environmental degradation that years of militarization had wrought. Lithuania's independence, and its subsequent membership in NATO in 2004, further complicated Kaliningrad's military significance. Transit routes, once controlled by a fellow Soviet republic, now passed through the territory of a NATO member, adding a layer of political complexity to logistical and military movements. The presence of NATO forces in Lithuania, just a short distance from Kaliningrad's borders, increased the sense of encirclement and heightened tensions. Despite these challenges, Kaliningrad remains a strategically important region for Russia. The Baltic Fleet, while smaller than its Cold War predecessor, continues to operate from Kaliningrad, its presence maintaining Russia's naval foothold in the Baltic Sea. The Exclave's military infrastructure, though degraded in the years following the Soviet collapse, has undergone significant modernization in recent years. New missile systems, including the Iskander-M, with its increased range and precision, have been deployed, enhancing Kaliningrad's capabilities. Air defense systems, such as the S-400, have been upgraded, providing a formidable shield against potential air attacks. Kaliningrad's role in Russia's current military doctrine remains significant. The Exclave is seen as a key element in Russia's strategy to counter NATO expansion in the Baltic region. Its military presence, including advanced missile systems and air defenses, is intended to deter NATO activities and project Russian power. The Suwalki Gap, that narrow strip of land between Kaliningrad and Belarus, remains a focal point of strategic planning, both for Russia and NATO. Kaliningrad's history, from its Teutonic origins to its current status as a Russian exclave, is a testament to the enduring importance of geography and military power. The city, once a center of Prussian culture and commerce, has been transformed into a fortress, its fate intertwined with the shifting tides of European geopolitics. Its strategic location, its ice-free port, and its military infrastructure ensure that Kaliningrad will continue to play a pivotal role in the 21st century, a focal point of tension and a key piece in the complex chessboard of international relations. Chapter 5. The Unsinkable Aircraft Carrier. Kaliningrad's role in modern geopolitics and the shadow of conflict. This small territory, roughly the size of Northern Ireland, is a microcosm of Russia's complex relationship with Europe, a region where cooperation and conflict intertwine. The metaphor of Kaliningrad as Russia's unsinkable aircraft carrier encapsulates its contemporary geopolitical significance. More than just a catchy phrase, it reflects the exclave's function as a forward operating base, a strategic platform from which Russia projects its military power into the Baltic Sea region and beyond. Kaliningrad's military capabilities are substantial, transforming this seemingly isolated outpost into a formidable bastion. The Baltic Fleet, headquartered in the port city of Baltiisk, maintains a constant presence in the Baltic Sea. While facing challenges in modernization and maintenance, the fleet still comprises a variety of warships, including destroyers, frigates, corvettes, and submarines. These vessels, equipped with anti-ship missiles and torpedoes, contribute to Russia's naval power projection in the region. Beyond the Baltic Fleet, Kaliningrad hosts a powerful ground force, including motorized rifle brigades and artillery units. These forces, equipped with tanks, armored personnel carriers, and self-propelled artillery, are not merely defensive in nature. They represent a potential offensive capability, particularly in the context of the Suwalki Gap. However, Kaliningrad's true strategic significance lies in its arsenal of advanced missile systems. These missiles, with a range exceeding 500 kilometers, can reach targets deep within NATO territory, including major European capitals like Berlin and Warsaw. This capability significantly enhances Russia's A2/AD anti-access, area denial, strategy in the Baltic Sea. A2/AD, a cornerstone of Russian military doctrine, aims to deter potential adversaries by creating a zone of control in which their military operations become highly risky or even impossible. Kaliningrad plays a central role in this strategy. The Iskander-M missiles, along with advanced anti-aircraft systems like the S-400, establish a formidable defensive perimeter. These systems, capable of intercepting aircraft and missiles at long ranges, create a no-go zone for NATO air power, significantly complicating any potential military intervention in the region. This layered defense network, combining naval, ground, and air defense capabilities, effectively denies NATO access to the Baltic Sea and its surrounding airspace, bolstering Russia's strategic position. The Suwalki Gap, a narrow 65-mile stretch of land bordering Kaliningrad to the west and Belarus to the east, has become a focal point of strategic concern for both NATO and Russia. This corridor, connecting Poland and Lithuania, is the only land route linking the Baltic states to the rest of NATO territory. Its strategic importance cannot be overstated. For NATO, the Suwalki Gap is a vital lifeline, the primary route for reinforcements and supplies to its Baltic members. Its closure would effectively isolate Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, leaving them vulnerable to Russian pressure. For Russia, the Suwalki Gap represents a tempting target, a potential choke point that could cripple NATO's ability to defend its Baltic allies. In a hypothetical conflict scenario, Russian forces from Kaliningrad, potentially supported by Belarusian troops, could attempt to seize the gap, severing the land connection between the Baltic states and the rest of NATO. This move would not only isolate the Baltic states but also create a land bridge between Kaliningrad and Belarus, consolidating Russia's control over the region and significantly altering the geopolitical landscape. The potential consequences of such a scenario are far-reaching, raising the specter of a wider conflict involving NATO and Russia. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has cast a long shadow over Kaliningrad, exacerbating existing tensions and raising concerns about potential escalation. Lithuania, a staunch supporter of Ukraine and a vocal critic of Russia, has found itself on the front lines of this new Cold War. Its enforcement of EU sanctions against Russia, including restrictions on the transit of certain goods through its territory to Kaliningrad, has sparked a diplomatic crisis. These restrictions, affecting goods such as steel, coal, construction materials, and advanced technology, have disrupted supply chains and heightened tensions between Moscow and Vilnius. Russia, viewing these restrictions as a blockade, has threatened retaliation, raising fears of a potential military response. Poland's symbolic renaming of Kaliningrad to Kralevik, while largely a political gesture, reflects the complex historical and cultural layers that continue to shape the exclave's identity. Kralevik, the historical Polish name for the city, evokes memories of a time when the region was part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. This renaming, while not recognized by Russia, is a symbolic assertion of Polish historical claims and a reflection of the broader tensions between Russia and its Western neighbors. It serves as a reminder of the contested nature of Kaliningrad's identity, a territory with a long and complex history intertwined with various European powers. Within Kaliningrad itself, a small but vocal independence movement adds another layer of complexity to the region's geopolitical landscape. This movement, known as the Baltic Republican Party, advocates for the creation of an independent, Fourth Baltic Republic, encompassing the Kaliningrad Oblast. While this movement remains marginal, its existence reflects the unique identity and aspirations of some Kaliningrad residents. Their arguments often center on the exclave's historical ties to Europe, its distinct cultural identity, and its economic struggles within the Russian Federation. The movement's chances of success are slim, given the overwhelming Russian majority population and the Kremlin's firm control over the region. However, it serves as a barometer of the complex and often contradictory sentiments within Kaliningrad, a region where Russian patriotism coexists with a yearning for closer ties with Europe. Kaliningrad's economic situation is precarious, marked by struggling industries and a heavy dependence on Russia. The collapse of the Soviet Union and the subsequent transition to a market economy had a devastating impact on the region's industrial base. Traditional industries, such as shipbuilding and amber processing, declined sharply, leading to widespread unemployment and economic hardship. Kaliningrad's geographic isolation and its dependence on transit routes through Lithuania further complicate its economic development. Attempts to create free ports and special economic zones, aimed at attracting foreign investment and stimulating economic growth, have yielded mixed results. While these initiatives have brought some benefits, they have also been criticized for fostering corruption and failing to address the underlying structural problems of Kaliningrad's economy. The region remains heavily reliant on subsidies from Moscow, a testament to its economic vulnerability. Despite the political tensions, Kaliningrad maintains some economic ties with its neighboring countries. Cross-border trade, particularly with Poland and Lithuania, provides a limited but important source of income. Tourism, particularly from neighboring countries, also contributes to the local economy. The potential for greater economic integration with Europe exists, but its realization is hindered by the ongoing political tensions and the lack of trust between Russia and the West. The EU, while recognizing the potential benefits of closer economic ties with Kaliningrad, remains wary of deepening its economic relationship with a heavily militarized Russian exclave. Kaliningrad's future remains uncertain, its role in the ongoing geopolitical tensions a source of profound concern for regional stability and international relations. The exclave's strategic importance, its military capabilities, and its complex history make it a potential flashpoint, a region where the shadows of conflict loom large. The ongoing war in Ukraine, the transit disputes with Lithuania, the symbolic renaming by Poland, and the internal aspirations for independence all contribute to the volatile mix. Kaliningrad stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in a region where historical grievances, strategic rivalries, and competing visions for the future collide. Its fate, intertwined with the broader dynamics of European security, will continue to shape the geopolitical landscape for years to come. From Teutonic Knights to a Russian exclave, Kaliningrad's history underscores the enduring influence of geography and power. Its transformation from Königsberg reflects the tumultuous shifts in European geopolitics, particularly the devastating impact of World War II and the Cold War. Today, Kaliningrad's heavily militarized status and strategic location make it a key player in the ongoing tensions between Russia and the West, raising concerns about regional stability and the potential for conflict. The exclave's complex identity, shaped by a layered past and an uncertain future, highlights the challenges of reconciliation and the enduring legacy of historical change. What are your thoughts on Kaliningrad's unique and precarious position? Share your insights in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and suggest topics for future explorations. Let's continue to learn together.